We can't gather in person this year, but we've adapted. The 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival brings the best in film from across the globe and around the corner. And this year, it's all virtual, so the films and events are coming directly to you. Join us for the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival, October 15th through the 29th. More information is at mkefilm.org/MFF.
Good evening and welcome to Day 7 of the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival presented by Associated Bank. I'm Kara, I'm the Artistic Director at Milwaukee Film, and this is the Nightcap presented by the Yabuki Family Foundation. I'm going to remind you to cast your vote for the Alan H. Budd and Suzanne L. Seelig Audience Awards. To do that, you'll just visit the film or shorts program page for the film that you saw. You go to watch.mkefilm.org. And if you log in either with your pass and navigate to the film you want to vote for, or with your ticket code on that film page, there's a button that says Vote Now, and you'll just click there and you will be connected to the form that will serve as your ballot. Same scale as always, where 5 is excellent and 1 is not so excellent, but you're going to click the button instead of tearing the ballot. It's very important you not tear your computer screens. I'm warning everybody, it destroys things. As you've all seen, we also have a double up challenge happening. Thanks to the generosity of Judith McGregor and Richard Galloon, if we raise $75,000 during this year's festival, so now through the 29th, they will double that. There's a couple ways you can help support us in this. You can text double up to 44321. You can go to the website, mkefilm.org/donate. Or if you are going to have your membership expire this month, or if you're not yet a member, renewing or joining as a member also counts toward that, as do your roundups at the ticketing page. Lots of different ways to help contribute. We do need to meet that goal. As of this morning, we're at about 67%, so we're on our way, but things have slowed down the last couple of days. So I've been told to make today really, really good. And I'm going to need all of you watching out there on the internet to help with that. You can give any amount that you're comfortable with. It'll help us continue doing what we do both during the festival as well as year round. We really couldn't do all that we do without the support, in particular, of our members. We really appreciate our members who help keep us on screen, even through unusual means, as well as to support our education programs that are all also kind of happening virtually, making sure that students get access to great films and curriculum, all that good stuff. And members get access to free films. Today is super secret member screening night. If you're out there on the internet, please don't announce the film yet. We're having everyone wait until midnight just to make sure everyone has a chance to see that film. And they get to have a lot of fun as part of the community. So if you are already a member, thank you so much. Please help us spread the word about the membership and join before the end of the festival so it gets doubled. It's like a win-win. This evening, we are going to have sort of 2 segments of Q&A. The first, I will be joined by Alice Street film director Spencer Wilkinson, and then we will have a conversation with 2 of the shorts in our Black Lens Shorts Exploration and Introspection program, Queenie and Echoes of a Winter Sunshine. And Dante will be here to shepherd you through that Q&A. But first, I would like to welcome Spencer, the director of Alice Street, to the screen, to Milwaukee. Welcome to Milwaukee, Spencer.
Thank you so much.
Anyone out there, feel free to put your questions and comments in the chat wherever you are. They will get to us, and I will try to bring them up in our conversation. But I will get us started. Spencer, we talked about this, I think, earlier, but one of the reasons that I thought it was really important to bring your film here is that Oakland and Baltimore, a number of these cities are kind of kin to Milwaukee. A lot of similar kinds of questions, a lot of similar kinds of issues, challenges. But in watching Alice Street, I was particularly struck by this sort of the city of artists, and Milwaukee, as you probably got to know in talking to some of our local filmmakers, Milwaukee is also kind of filled with artists who are trying to kind of stay local and do local work. So that was, just one of the reasons that I wanted to make sure we got a chance to show your film. Can you talk a little bit about the origins of the project for you?
Sure. Yeah, and thank you again for having me here as part of tonight. And I'm so glad to, solidify this kinship with sister cities, Milwaukee, Oakland. Yeah, so I was actually living on Alice Street when I heard that muralists were going to be painting a massive mural right down the street from where I lived. And so I got in touch with one of the muralists and learned about kind of their strategy for painting this thing. And it involved deep research into the community to learn really about the cultural histories that were present on this intersection. And as part of their desire to do research, they kind of approached me about helping to conduct interviews with local community members. So it kind of started really embedded in with the two muralists who were the lead kind of characters of Alice Street, and followed their process from kind of early stages research to the point where they presented their sketch to the same communities, that they first interacted with, got feedback, and, figured out what would go on the wall. So I really kind of followed it as part of this, group. And then the story really took a twist and became something completely different as the city was really transforming due to forces of gentrification in downtown Oakland. It became a much bigger story than the mural, but the mural continued to kind of play a role throughout. So that's kind of the, my entry into it.
Yeah. At what point did you know you were making a film?
That's a great question. I think that even early on, hearing the stories from these people who were on the intersection, I understood that there was a very deep history of, these two cultural communities, primarily Oakland Chinatown, and a center of seniors who were primarily Chinese immigrant, low-income seniors who lived in this beautiful, restored, turn of the century hotel. Was on one intersection, or on one side of the street. The other side of the street was this African diasporic art center called the Malanga Cascalor Center for the Arts. So hearing the stories of these artists, how they got the building in the first place, or on the other hand, these Chinese seniors, how it became a residential home. Already I knew it was rich. And then following the muralists and their process for creating this piece was very interesting. But I think really, by reflecting on the shifting dynamics and the pressures for primarily the communities of color in Oakland, and gentrification, and then the resistance to those changes, and to these groups coming together to fight back, is when I really understood the kind of the depth of the story.
Yeah. And to fight back with this sort of, it's like a joyful resistance too. I mean, in very striking sort of how CRP sort of does this deep listening and then really tries to sort of reflect back to the community what they're hoping to sort of see. Like, how do they want to be reflected? That was really sort of inspiring to watch. And then this sort of shared desire to have kind of joyful or abundant moments, celebratory moments reflected, and not just, sort of like, here's history and challenge, but here's moments of pride and joy. There's sort of this beautiful parallels between what both kind of kitty corner buildings wanted to kind of see for themselves in the shared space. I think the other thing that's striking is sort of that the power of kind of art to build those relationships, to build those bridges, and whether that's, the public art of the mural or the dance, the drums, the different kinds of arts that we get to bear witness to. All of that is, sort of, it's inspiring, it's hopeful in a lot of ways for me as an audience member, even through those challenges that they're resisting. Yeah. What was surprising to you then? I think, it sounds like in some ways you're like, oh, I'm like, you didn't set out to be like sort of making the film that you were making, but can you talk more about other surprises for you in the process of filming this story as it evolved?
Well, I think what you brought up in terms of the ways in which art really became almost a language for exchange, cross-cultural, when people and oftentimes weren't even speaking the same language. When we had the big celebration for the opening of this mural, these different cultural groups came and shared their art. And it really became this moment where it was celebrating the differences, and not just kind of tolerating the differences. And I think that was the through line throughout, and I think that the big surprise for me really was that, as part of the story, the mural itself gets kind of threatened its own existence. And the big surprise was how these two, very distinct, different communities really did unify to use their art again, like you mentioned, in a celebratory way, but really to form, sit at the negotiating table with developers and push an agenda that was unified. I think that was very powerful, and for many of us who witnessed the story, that was it was profound to watch happen. Yeah.
And sort of the contrast, I guess, of the process that CRP goes through to listen versus the process that got disrupted, but where the developers didn't understand that needed to be a part of their process, but were gently encouraged to by
right.
who knew that they needed to directly communicate.
I hope that becomes, one of the takeaways from the story is that, this deep listening and respecting the communities allowed for this sense of relationship to develop that was based in trust between the artists and the community. And that the strong relationship allowed them to continue to, work when they were, both communities were being threatened in a sense. Yeah. And I think that deep listening is really the through line of the story, like you said.
Yeah. And I think just finding commonalities that, aren't that far below the surface, but need just some space to be kind of emerging instead of kind of a, I don't know, paternalistic perspective on like, well, we're going to do this and it's going to be good. A striking quote I wrote down is a character asks, is what's coming worth more than what's here? And just thinking about that, like worth and like, whose worth, whose vision is being enacted, and are there ways that, multiple visions can rise together? Kind of calls that question out for us. What are, sort of, were there challenges in making the film, either in gaining trust of some of the subjects, of getting buy-in from folks who might, how am I going to put this, not necessarily come off as positively as others? Or other kinds of challenges that you may have faced in sort of following the story or getting the film done?
Definitely. Yeah, lots. The project took about 7 years to complete, from outset, and it was very much a grassroots kind of an undertaking. At the beginning, we didn't really have this sense of the large vision. And so we didn't really come prepared. But I think in every stage, and it was, we got a lot of support from like the local community kind of cultural art fund and foundations locally to support the story, because it was based in this kind of archival of cultural groups and cultural history. People found it to be something that seemed valuable to our community. So that was a tremendous support to get the story made. But there were difficulties throughout. And like you mentioned, I think you might have been kind of inferring there was even resistance to the mural itself from some, people within the community who really didn't want, celebrating, for example, the Black Panther Party as part of the legacy of Oakland, and, found that to be, objectionable or, threatening. So there's a lot of different perspectives that had to be kind of waded through, I think, in the process for the artists, and in and also connected, I think, with the making of the film. And, you know, you don't know where the story's going to go. And, you know, there was kind of, it's interesting because at different points, I think we could have ended, you know, kind of don't know. And I think this was probably true for a lot of documentary filmmakers. You don't know when the story ends. Yeah. You know, how far do you continue to follow the thread? And there were points in which, you know, we're running out of money and we're thinking, okay, well, maybe we need to wrap this up. And then by taking, you know, another 6 months or a year, we were able to really follow the story to its completion. And then we knew, okay, this is done. But I think that's one of the primary challenges, is like really figuring out when is the story complete. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of factors can lead to you know, pulling the plug, but I'm glad we didn't.
Right. Do you have updates on some of the subjects, or on, you know, the intersection, or on sort of what's going on currently in Oakland around these questions of gentrification and arts collaborations and coalitions?
For sure. I mean, I think what we saw was that, you know, these two diverse communities really came together, formed a coalition, and fought for community benefit agreements from a lot of new developments that were coming into downtown Oakland, and realized that that's a powerful strategy to negotiate with new developers to, you know, like you mentioned, you know, how do you value who's in a community, or do you value what's coming into the community more? And so that tactic of finding diverse communities and coalitions and unifying and asking for community benefit agreements has been very successful. That coalition that formed was able to win community benefit agreements from several other developers. At last count, I think it was up to $20 million in community benefits have been won by that coalition. And that means low-income housing, it means support for artist groups, and a variety of other kind of outcomes. I don't want to give away too much because I really want people to see the film. If I did talk too much about what's occurred since then, I think I would give away an important part of the plot. So, you know, check out Alice Street.
Okay.
And
we won't have no spoilers. No spoilers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Any specific subject updates that don't
specific subjects? Well, the two lead artists continue to make prolific murals throughout Oakland. Yeah. The individuals who are really kind of on the activist side of the story, who form these coalitions, are still very much active. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the cultural groups pictured in the film are very much active and strong in Oakland. Oakland's changed a lot, and especially, you know, due to this pandemic. I think Milwaukee, Oakland, you know, cities across the country have like changed in large ways. But I think public art has been this, you know, theme where artists are kind of, retaking their city and painting their cities with their own imagery and with their own messages. And that's been very powerful to witness, is the kind of the power of public art right now. Yeah. You know, when they were boarding up windows due to, you know, a lot of looting and things that were happening, and I think businesses fearing, you know, damage, those pieces of plywood became canvases, you know, and that's been powerful to watch the transformation.
Yeah. And it's a form of art that can be both executed and consumed in sort of a safe, distanced, masked way. Those muralists wear masks already.
Yeah, very effective ones. Yeah.
It's, I agree that I think Milwaukee has also sort of like seen a rise in the number of murals that are being put up, in part because we can't gather in some of the spaces that artists traditionally would gather. So there's a little bit more of a, well, let's put it out in the open, and sort of respond to what's happening in the city, for sure. Yeah. What's next for the film? What's next for you? Other than watching the film during the Milwaukee Film Festival, do you have plans for this film, or are you working on new projects that we can kind of keep our eyes out for?
Yeah, the film has been received well. We've had, you know, about 10 or 12 festivals that we're showing Alice Street in, and We just had an amazing screening for Oakland high school students just the other day for about 100 kids, and it was received really well by these students. So I think that we'll continue to do a lot of screenings educationally. We received a great grant from the California Arts Council to tour the film through communities in California impacted by gentrification, and another big grant by the San Francisco Foundation to expand upon our kind of impact campaign with the film. We'll actually be bringing the film to Chicago, to schools in Chicago, and I'm sure doing this in a socially distant, safe way, but be having screenings in the area. So we'd love to continue to build with sister cities, Milwaukee, and other cities out there. But it's been wonderful, and yeah, I have other projects coming, but right now, we're really excited about the story of Alice Street, how it can be, hopefully an inspiration during these times of community and empowerment and art. I think things that we're all kind of sorely missing right now. So again, it's amazing to be part of Milwaukee Film Festival this year. We're so grateful. I wish I could be there, but this has been awesome.
Yes. Well, and it's a film that does bring you into you feel like you're there at that celebration of the mural opening with dance and drums and the sort of, it's one of those ones that if you turn it up loud enough on your home TV, you do get that kind of I'm there at an event kind of a feeling. Not quite, but enough, proximate as we can get right now. Well, thank you, Spencer. Thank you for Alice Street, and thank you for your time this evening. If folks haven't yet caught the chance, catch it. It starts with an A, so it's really easy to find in the program guide. You don't have to scroll very far. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring up Dr. Dante McFadden. Hi.
Hi. Thank you, Dr. Kara Ockburn.
Thank you.
Thank you to Spencer as well. Thank you for having your documentary in our festival, and I hope many people check it out. And I hope many people check out the Black Lens Shorts program, Exploration and Inspiration. So I'm Dante McFadden. I'm the programmer for Black Lens, and I'm honored to have two dynamic shorts in the program that I just mentioned. Echoes of a Winter Sunshine by Oniffe White and Kai Thomas, director of Queenie. And I like to bring them to the virtual space right now, as well as the actors from Echoes of a Winter Sunshine, Sonja, Cirilo, and Noble Whitted. So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for bringing these stories to life. Secondly, thank you for having films in our festival. It's a great pleasure to have your work. And so I like to
thank you for inviting us. Truly appreciate it. Absolutely. So, I'd like for each of you to introduce yourselves to our virtual audience, say your name and, say what you want people to know about you. I guess I'll go first. I'm here. My name is Oniffe White. I am a director, I guess, by trade, who just happens to write. And let's see, what else? I'm originally from Jamaica, and I like to tell visual stories.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Kai Thomas. I'm the filmmaker behind Queenie. I am interested in telling verite documentary stories about Black youth and elders. And I grew up in Miami's Liberty City neighborhood, which a lot of folks know because of Moonlight now.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonja Cirilo. I am an actor from the U.S. Virgin Islands. I studied in New York, and I just love telling stories, giving voice to the voiceless.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Noble Whitted, and I started acting so then I could hopefully reach my goal to play a superhero in a superhero TV show or movie someday.
Thank you. And I think you got a great start with the role that you play in Echoes of a Winter Sunshine. So thank you all. Great to have you all here. Usually if we were in person and if you were in Milwaukee,
the conversation would be pretty much like this, but really looking forward to it. So Oniffe and Kai, I just want to begin by asking you, what inspired you to want to bring these stories to the screen?
Kai, you can go first on this one.
So I had been seeing a lot of films about like LGBTQ young folks and hadn't really seen any film about elders. So in 2018, I was like, hey, I need to start doing research and finding an LGBTQ elder to document. And in particular, as a young Black lesbian, I wanted to document a Black lesbian elder. So I came to meet Queenie through an organization called Griot, which is based in Brooklyn, that does a lot of organizing work with LGBTQ elders of color. And in my research, I found out about what was then being referred to as Ingersoll Residences, which is now Stonewall Houses, which is New York City's first affordable housing specifically for LGBT elders. And applying for it, I'm like, okay, this is what the film is going to be, to follow someone navigating applying for housing, and like what does aging with pride look like for someone who isn't partnered and who doesn't have a child.
Thank
you. So the idea came, I attend Fordham University here in New York City. And I was in the film and video class that we have, because we don't really have a film program. We just have some classes. And because I'd gotten sick and my original program, project I couldn't do, 5 minutes before class, the idea just snapped in my head. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then so when I had to step in class and explain the idea, everything just started unspooling. And then I just went home that night, and then I wrote the first draft. And as time goes on, I continue to write. And then I started looking for individuals, and I happened on these two magical human beings that are sitting right here in front of me. And so that allowed me to, when I was writing, just stretch and create more scenes and things like that. So it was a project.
Yeah. And watching the film, that's what it feels like. It's unspooling. You're trying to learn about these two people's lives in terms of making sense of their situation and what lies ahead of them next. The question I have for each of you, and this is about presenting the idea of, to the people that you involved in the film. So Kai, how did you present this project to Queenie?
I think the first interaction, so right, I'm dealing with the elder, and like Griot was kind of like an intermediary. So it's me first telling them like, hey, this is what the idea is for the film. Do you all have anyone who's a participant who is applying? And so I told them like my ethics and like my methodology about the film, and they had a separate conversation with Queenie and asked if it was okay for for her to like pass on her phone number. She said yes. And then it was a phone call with Queenie to be like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And then we just had like multiple phone calls. And then I went to her apartment to like hang out. I was like, hey, let's do like a test day of shooting, just so you know like what it feels like, because my style is verite. Just because like I think if someone's not familiar with documentary, they think I would just be coming and doing sit down interviews, and like that's not the case of how I operate with the form. So it was those conversations, and she was like, okay, like I'm on board, I'm game, which was really nice and really sweet. And she like really understood, because like whenever she was getting a phone call, I would be the next phone call to be like, hey, Kai, this is what's happened, if I wasn't like in the house or in the apartment, which I really appreciated. And even like on the back end now that like the film is done, she's like, like she obviously has like a private link to the film, but she knows like, hey, everyone else who has to watch it, like has to buy tickets like everyone else. And just like, it's really beautiful that she has understood like all the lives and versions of the film.
That's awesome. And I just have to note before I forget to do so. So when we were interacting in person earlier in 2020, Kai was a guest for a panel that Black Lens put on for Black History Month, Black Women Behind the Lens. So, so it's great to have you part of this conversation.
Yes, it is really great. And also major shout out to Miela, who moderated that panel and coordinated and just had her directorial debut today with the piece with the Intercept about voting in Milwaukee. So major shout outs to her. And also I just love Black Lens and y'all's commitment to like Black programming year round. Like it's not just the festival, it's also not just during Black History Month either. Like y'all are really dedicated to uplifting Black indie filmmakers. And like I can't say that about like a lot of other like cities in their major film festivals. So I'm really excited to be here and be in conversation with you again.
That really means a lot, Kai, and we're happy to have you be a part of it. So Oniffe, how did you present this project to your two actors, Sonja and Noble?
Luck is the name of the game. Someone told me about Backstage, and I went on to Backstage because I was looking for actors, because the ones that I was trying Fordham theater program, but because it was during the holiday and also finals, no one was prepared, and I guess that was exactly my luck. And so I looked on Backstage and I saw I went through 300 female, like over 300 women, like just kept on looking at their profile, and I settled on 2. And I sent them messages, and Sonja got back to me, and got back to me, said, "Oh, send me the script." So I sent her the script, and she got back to me the next day and go, "This is really good. I would love to be a part of this, but I am currently in the Virgin Islands, and I won't be back until January 7th." And I was like, all right. So I was like, it's a project for school, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I think you're the perfect person for this, because when I saw her reel, I only cast it off for 3 words in 5 seconds. That's it. Like when I saw her do that, I was like, she can give me exactly what I want just from those 3 words. That's it. And just her reaction. She was just standing in a place, and her reaction to just that thing felt so natural that I was just like, she has to be the one. So I did not chase anyone else. After that, like I said, I'll hold this for her. And we met and we sat down and we talked. She spoke about it, and when we were communicating, she expressed what I was looking for. And I was just like, yes, okay, all right, cool. And then we spooled it from there. And with Noble, I went through, again, hundreds of candidates, because he was specific. He had to have this magical smile. His smile had to be the sun that just shone down on everything, because what he represented. And so his smile was so big that I was just like, between him and these other 3, but he was my number 1 choice. And I was like, his mother responded yes. And I was like, oh, wow. And she trusted me with her most precious thing in the world to present to the world. And so that's how I landed. Just pure, unadulterated luck of just them saying yes.
That's amazing. Sonja and Noble, if you could describe from your perspective how you were introduced to this project, and what was your immediate response?
Yeah, so like Oniffe said, I received the message and I asked him for the script, because at that point in my life, I'm like, I need to know what I'm doing now. Like, I can't just be saying yes to anything. And he sent me the script, and I related to that character in a way that was just so magical. I am an older sister, and, I lost my parents when I was very young. And as the older sibling who then becomes the mother figure, there are things that you are willing to sacrifice that I think like only mothers know. And I saw that in that writing. I saw the sacrifice and the love and the willing to survive. And I saw this story, and I saw that this was a story that is so true and so it's untold and it's unseen, but every person goes through something like that, or can relate to that, or is going through exactly that, and that's the essence. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me, I think I found out on a highway trying to go back home, and when my mom told me, I was very excited because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in a movie. But then the more I thought about it and the more closer I got a little scared because I've never been in a movie before. This is my first time. And my mom said that it was a short movie, but I was still scared because it's still, if it has the word movie in it to me,
Right.
it's still a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And and when she told me that I didn't really have any lines, I kind of got relieved. But I'm kind of shy, so I was also very scared to meet everybody. So when I went there and met everybody, it was kind of scary to me. But when I was done, I thought that I just survived something that I didn't think I could do before, and it made me feel very great. So when we did it, it was I felt like the best thing in the world just happened to me.
Thank you. And Kai and Oniffe, I want to ask each of you about building trust with the people involved in your projects. And I just want to stay with Oniffe, Noble, and Sonja for a minute. How did you, the three of you, build that trust in order to present what you did on screen?
Well, Sonja, because finding it early and then sitting down and having the conversation and relating, and then I'm from Jamaica and she's from the Virgin Islands, so that has this nice shorthand that you can relate to being in the Caribbean. And then so sitting down and realizing, hey, because we have that, let's see if there's an inherent trust. Because I trust individuals first. You get 100% of my trust, no matter how it is. That's just how I am. And then so when someone's feeding you, all they do is add that trust to it. And when you get a body language, because people can say words all they want, right? But when you get body language from someone that they're actually into what you put on paper instead of just the lip service, that really builds that. For Noble, the first day his mother goes, I'm just gonna leave him because if I'm here, then I might get distracted. And then he just merged easily into the process. Just on our rehearsal day, he just simply, I didn't know he was nervous because he did not exude any of that. As a matter of fact, he was providing ideas for the scene when we were rehearsing. So he was already in, so didn't even understand. So we just flowed, and it was just an ebb and flow of the whole process with the two main actors.
Thank you.
Lucky for me, I brought in all my actor friends from the conservatory. So everybody else who acted beside Noble was from the same conservatory as me. So, but that allowed me to continue to practice bravery, which is something that is taught to us at the Atlantic. And being that I knew who hands I was in, I was able to then just let myself go and live in the moment and try to be as honest and as truthful to the character, to the process, to the writing. Yeah.
When I went there, I got kind of exciting the more we went into it. And I used to do a lot of plays and stuff at my school. And I thought, if there's a lot of people at my school and there's not that much people in this room, I could probably do it. And before we started acting, we did a name game, I'm pretty sure. And once I got to know everybody, it kind of made me feel a lot more better. And I thought that I could be it, that I can feel better around these people. But I was pretty nervous because my mom just left me.
All right, so you had to trust him.
Yeah.
Not to make it seem like you were forced, but you gradually, build a connection that you could rely on each other. How you began by talking about, establishing, the ethics for the project in terms of how you present it to people, how you pursue the person that you want to be involved, and how you pretty much just lay everything out so the person feels comfortable telling you if they want to be involved or not. Mm-hmm. And another thing I want to say about trust with your film is I think it's a theme that persists throughout because Queenie, she's a person that people in the neighborhood go to as a source of strength. But yet, you see, the opposite side with when you share the audio with the phone calls with the people with, trying to get the kind of place that she needs, feel comfortable. She's just treated like another client. So 2 questions. 1, how did you build that trust with Queenie? And then 2, what were your observations of, the trust that Queenie had with other people that are shown in the film, and how did you want to capture that?
Yeah, I think there was also so much relationship building with Queenie that didn't happen on camera, right? Or wasn't documented or part of like the visual aesthetic of the film per se. Like one of a hangout that myself, the consulting producer, Jenny Casas, and Queenie and I had is like, we went and saw Queen and Slim like opening weekend. And then like we went to Pies and Thighs in Brooklyn and we're just like chatting and like talking about life, or like on days before we started like shooting like heavily, like I would go on a Saturday and like bring like a cupcake or brownie and just like sit and just like talk. Or like, the bulk of the film is her waiting to get like the phone call to hear what's going on with the apartment. It's like in the waiting of that film, like she and I watch Moonlight, or like we would be watching like her soap opera shows and like all this other stuff. So I think having a good amount of interactions that had nothing to do with like a mic being on her or a camera in front of her face. That way she was more comfortable with like me being there. And also like for folks who have seen the film, or once you see it, it's like her bedroom is a really tight space. Like we are right here, you know what I'm saying? So that was really important. And then in terms of like, her relationship with like these bureaucratic agencies and like documenting it was definitely difficult. I was also definitely advocating for her, like as like the sort of outside reporting that happens for the film is like contacting these agencies to be like, hey, like Queenie hasn't heard anything. I know from other people who have applied for this place that like they're getting phone calls and like this building is supposed to be opening next week. Like what's going on? So that was something that was really important. And Queenie and I are still tight. Like we are in a WhatsApp message. I sent her the poster when the poster was first made, or she saw a rough cut before it was even done, just to make sure that she was like cool with it. It has been like an ongoing process, and she's definitely someone who's like gonna be in my life for a long time. And for me as a documentary filmmaker, the process of making the film is just, if not even more important than like post-production and the life of the film on the festival circuit. I'm trying to make sure that my participant is enthusiastic throughout the whole process. And I also am enthusiastic about making the film, and also like really grounded in the making of the film as well. Documentary can be really difficult. There are probably maybe 2 days in the long stretch of filming where I just needed a break from it because it's intense. Like this person's housing is being figured out, and it's like a big emotional pull. So I definitely am appreciative of like the patience that Queenie had for me, and also like the patience that I had for her as well in documenting, and also having like a fantastic consulting producer to be like, hey, this is the rundown of what happened today. What do you think? One of those days where I ended up not filming, I ended up missing the scene that I thought was the most vital to document. And Jenny was just like, you know what, you have to think about another way to like visually convey that information and be adaptable, which I really appreciated. So yeah.
Yeah, I really don't want to try to go too off track with this conversation, but are you familiar with the film Bush Mama by Halle Garima?
I am not. I have to watch it now.
Yeah, strongly recommend that you check it out. It's about a woman named Dorothy. She's widowed. She's a single mother, and she has a boyfriend who's a Vietnam veteran suffering from PTSD. And the dilemma that Dorothy faces is that she's pregnant, and in order for her to keep on receiving federal assistance, the social worker who talks with her keeps pressuring her to terminate her pregnancy. And in addition to that, you often hear throughout the soundtrack, these kind of questions you would hear if you're going to seek assistance, or if you're trying to get some type of resources. And then there's the repetition of the question, do you understand? Do you understand? So that's something that came to mind as I was listening to those conversations that Queenie was having, just trying to get her apartment.
Yeah. It's really interesting making a film that shows like the bureaucratic mess of New York City and affordable housing. And it's just really a shame that like everyone doesn't get to live in like a safe and accessible environment. And that's something that I hope really change going forward.
Definitely. And I was compelled by how you open the film, how you're capturing the space that she lives in before she appears on camera. And I think it establishes well the conflict that is at hand that she's dealing with.
Yeah, that was a great choice by my editor, Cesar Martinez, to open with the song and sort of build the world of all of the things that are in her apartment that mean so much to her.
Excellent choice. And so a question I have for Kai and Oniffe is, what informed the style that you chose to make your films? Some of you, you touched on a little bit of it, but just want to offer you a chance to elaborate even more in terms of how you approached the way you captured everything visually.
I am a visual filmmaker from the get-go. Like how I see, like I was expressing it, letting Sonja know earlier that I'm not really a writer. I'm a director. That I just write because I want to tell stories that I want to tell. But that's the only reason. But I'm visual, so I see things from that space. So I like Spielberg and Kubrick and how they do their films. Kubrick will do a thing where he'll show the camera at something and let you decide how you want that. While Spielberg will put you in the moment and let you decide. I try to do both, but I try to do that with the character. Like, in the beginning when Noble looks through, he's the one that's leading you to look through that moment. And then you say, oh, what's going on here? And then we take you in and then you feel that moment. That's just a product of this visually what's in my head. But being able to, let that be understood by people watching is where, as a director, I try my best to do. So the film itself is just me, because this is my first ever film. So it's just me making my first film, figuring out how I want to be a storyteller, and telling the story in Harlem, in that space, and how I need to tell it. And so the film told itself as much as I told the film.
That is really beautiful. For Queenie, her home is very warm, like color temperature wise, and I wanted to be really true to that. I think when I first saw her bedroom, I was like, oh man, like there's barely any light in here. Like she has curtains, there's literally like one little light bulb. I had considered bringing in lights, and then I was like, you know what, like I really want to be authentic. Like if I'm gonna have to boost up the ISO and it has this grainier look, then that's kind of what it is. I think when I consider her visual space, it very much just gives me like grandma auntie vibes, like plastic on the couch, like she has vinyl and like 8 tapes and just like a collection of dolls and just like a vintage feel. And I wanted that to be the feel and look of the film. And it's in stark contrast to whenever we leave her apartment, right? Like when we go to the grand opening, that place is so bright, so cool, so sterile in a different way than how her apartment like feels. I think also I have always just like been very committed to the verite style of documentary and not wanting to have sit down interviews, to really just observe someone's life in real time as something is happening feels really important, because I think in sit down documentaries, it allows for another layer of someone articulating themselves rather than you just seeing how they are in the world, and also how the world and like different forces respond to them. So like, right, with those phone calls, it would be different if I were to, have done an interview with Queenie and be like, hey, how do you feel about that conversation with so-and-so from rep office, where it's like you can see her like disappointment and just like frustration on her face while she's on the phone. So to me, committing to the verite style was like imperative, like top thing for me.
Yeah, and I certainly responded to the verite style that you utilize. I think you utilize it very well. And then another thing I want to say about how the film opens is that when you first hear Queenie's voice, she talks about the angels that she has in her home, which I thought was a compelling way to have us, become introduced to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of voices, Sonja and Noble, it's great to hear your voices. And I say that because throughout the film, you have no dialogue. And I'm just curious to know how you go about building and immersing yourself into a character, and you're not given any lines to convey what they're thinking.
For me, I think it's just living in the moment, understanding the circumstance of that specific thing that you're living in, my character is living in, and just trying to find the truth in that and to live in the moment. I think that's the only way you could successfully play that. Anything not authentic, it would read, so yeah, just living in the moment.
For me, the way I thought of my character, he seemed kind of happy and really joyful. So I would, and that kind of seemed like me, because I'm always smiling and I'm always doing some nice things and stuff. So I just try to do something that I would do if that was me.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, Noble, how you talk about your character being happy and joyful. And, I would even say that, going back to what Oniffe was saying, that, you're that source of sunshine. It makes me think about this, another film that's also in this program called The Last Starship, directed by Eric Haywood. And there's a character named Malik, who plays the son of a woman who's trying to get him and someone that they live with out of Earth before it becomes extinct and just uninhabitable to live in. And that character is pretty much the moral center because he's focused on using his gifts to help people. And I certainly saw that with your character, Noble, because your character witnesses his sister go through some painful situations. And, in the face of, relying on each other as your own community and, just not knowing, how you're going to get through the day, you still, both, the sister and the brother are still able to find moments of joy throughout and really, not, and then also just be, that comfort for each other, through such tough situations. And what I found most dynamic about, the characters not having any dialogue, it's almost like, seeing silent film characters in a way, just the way that you had to perform with your faces and your body. So that was my takeaway from it when I first saw the film.
Yeah. And what also helped me to do that, when I remember what I would do is that I would remember when my mom had like a stressful day of work when I was younger.
Yeah.
Anytime I would see her, and she would be like laying on the couch or something, I'd take off her shoes and then start singing, "Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be alright." So I kind of saw that a little bit, but except without singing it, but trying to do another way of doing it. But
beautiful. And so, as the programmer, I come up, with, the titles for these shorts programs after I sequence the films, determine, just the order in which to present one after the next. And, I just, with all the films, what immediately came to mind was exploration and inspiration. And, I'm sure, for kind of Oniffe, that's quite a discovery for you in that, oh, so that's the name of the program that my film is in. So I guess my question to all of you, actually, what does exploration and inspiration mean to you in the stories that you've told?
Yeah, I mean, for me, really, the impetus was exploring building a relationship with the Black lesbian elder. And I can say I now have that. And Queenie definitely is an inspiration to me. She's a riot and comedic and also so serious and just multifaceted, which I really appreciate. And just having someone in my life that's at that age, like before meeting Queenie, I don't think I knew a Black lesbian like over 50, And I think it's really important for us to be able to see ourselves in other people. And I'm just really happy to have her in my life and to have documented her. And I am looking forward to like being in her life for a really long time, hopefully, God willing.
Absolutely. And before I move on to the others, how's Queenie doing now?
She's doing well. I texted with her yesterday and she's so excited about the film and just keeping her updated about, hey, these are what the comments that are coming from my friends. And then I also asked her to be like, hey, how do like the people in your life think about the film? And it's just been really affirming. She's just like, hey, you deserve all of this. This thing is excellent. Like you're talented, you're gifted. And it feels really amazing to hear her say that.
Yeah, well, please let her know that people in Milwaukee are thinking her.
Yes, I will.
Indeed.
Sonja, go ahead.
I wasn't ready. I think for me, I have had to go through some really hard things in life very young. And I think society naturally forces us to build walls to survive. And in becoming an actor, I've had to break down those walls to get into the meaty, the juicy, the vulnerable. And doing a film like this helps me to get in touch, to stay in touch with the gooey. I don't know if that makes sense. And to explore, you know, the hurt, the sadness, the anger, the joy, the happiness. These are things that I feel like we have as we get older and we get more involved in the society, in the technology. We kind of start to lose focus on that empathy. And so I think with this film, it allowed me to continue to explore that vulnerable and the scary, the unknown, and to continue to practice bravery in that.
Thank you.
Noble?
Sorry, what was the question again?
So, what do you think of, what comes to mind when you think of exploration and inspiration as it relates to the film that you're in?
Well, I don't know.
It's cool. We can come back to you.
Yeah.
Let you meditate on that for a moment.
Mine's two-part, really. And it is the exploration side is sitting down and creating these characters, right? They came out of my head. And so they're experiences that I had not had. This is not, and a lot of people have biographical stories. This is not biographical at all, not even in the slightest. The inspiration is that I have a sister that I'm really close with. And I was able to sit down and use that connection that I have to say, let me write this. But as time went on and I was exploring what's going on with the characters, I would get inspired to say, you know what? Let me have her be LGBTQ, exploring that idea. So the book itself that's there, Sister Outsider, explores that idea that she's exploring who she is. And the reason is when you are, a sex worker, you don't get a choice. When you're stuck in a situation like that, you don't get a choice to be who you are. You need to be able to take care of you and who you care about. And so I added that, that little part to explore the character. And it is me now. I get to sit down and feel what the character feels like while I'm writing. And then that allows me to have more empathy and more emotional IQ and things that I didn't have before. The writing and directing and doing all that stuff and exploring it with the actor that is doing it. When something's happening and I go, I don't think she wouldn't be afraid of him. Like, there was a scene in the beginning where she at first when we were doing it, and all I had to do was go, I don't think she'd be afraid of him here. And then Sonja, being as exceptional as she is, she split from one tone to the next so immediate. I was like, I'm serious. She just switched the tone, and she would do that throughout. Just craft the character and just add to it. And you're just like, how phenomenal she is. So you get to explore that with the actors of who they are. As a filmmaker, the inspirational side of it is, I have to figure out what kind of filmmaker I was, because it's my first film. So, I made sure I told it with no words, because for me as a director should be able to tell the story visually without any aid. He should be able to use the skills and the technical abilities he has to be able to tell a story. And so I was like, if I can do that, then this is the field I want to be in. If I couldn't do that, then I'd have to bow out and say, yeah, I don't have the skills. And so I was able to execute the story and get the points across, every single one of them I wanted to, and tell the overall arcing story along with that without any words. And so with limited words, one character had it because, yeah. that had to be the case. And if I could have told this story without that, I would have done so. So the inspiration is I was able to inspire myself to say, yes, I can do this work that I that just came out of me.
Thank you. And Noble, no pressure, but I'll let you have the last word. And let me rephrase the question for you. What do you like to explore and what inspires you?
What I like to explore in it was that the characters, they were kind of inspirational because they actually they found a way to get money. They found a way to get food. They found a way to drink, and they also found a way how to be happy through all of it. And also be very protective.
Yeah. All right.
And go and sit through the pain.
Sure. So we'll conclude the conversation on that. Really enjoyed listening to all of you.
Thank you.
More about you. So, Kai Thomas, the director of Queenie, Oniffe White, the director of Echoes of a Winter Sunshine, along with actors Sonja Cirilo, Noble Whitted. It's been great talking with you all. Thank you very much. Remain safe and healthy where you are.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
And that concludes the Nightcap, Day 7. Special thanks to Spencer Wilkinson. Check out his documentary, Alice Street. Kai Thomas, Oniffe White, Sonja Cirilo, Noble Whitted. Please check out all the films in the festival and stay safe and healthy where you are while watching these movies. We appreciate your support and we support you. Good night.